Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a really big one, inspired by Rudolf Steiner's The Philosophy of Freedom. We're going to talk about a kind of freedom that you might not even realize you're missing, a freedom that actually happens before you even make a choice.
So, let me just ask you straight up. Are you really in control? I mean, when you decide on something, could be anything, what you have for lunch, or, a huge life decision. Is that choice truly 100% yours? Or is it just the end result of your biology, your past, your environment, all these invisible strings pulling you in a certain direction?
To really get the problem, we have to look at the classic argument against free will. The philosopher Spinoza had this amazing analogy. He said, imagine a stone that's been thrown through the air. Now, if that stone could suddenly think, it would probably believe it was flying all on its own, simply because it's aware it's moving, and it wants to keep going.
And here's the kicker, the part that's kind of tough to swallow. The argument is that we are that stone. We're conscious of our actions, but we're almost completely clueless about the long chain of causes, our genetics, our childhood, social pressures that actually force us to act. So from that angle, our most precious feeling, our freedom, is really just a beautiful, beautiful illusion. So how did we even get here? How did philosophy back us into a corner where freedom feels impossible? Well, it all goes back to a very old and very powerful way of looking at the world. A worldview that basically chops reality right in half.
It's a view called dualism, and the core idea is pretty simple. Reality is split into two totally different kinds of stuff. Think of it like oil and water. They just don't mix. On one side, you have spirit. That's your mind, your thoughts, your consciousness. And on the other, you have matter, the physical world, your body, everything that has to obey the strict laws of cause and effect.
And this split, it creates this huge canyon between the two. Our inner world feels subjective, it feels free, like we're the ones calling the shots. But the outer world, the world of matter, that's seen as just a giant machine governed by absolute necessity. They're treated like total polar opposites.
And this leads to the ultimate riddle, the one that dualism just can't solve. If your mind is some kind of non-physical ghost, how in the world can it tell your physical arm to pick something up? And on the flip side, how can a physical world ever be truly understood by a mind that's made of completely different stuff? It just doesn't work. It's a philosophical dead end.
But this is exactly where Steiner comes in and says, hang on, we've been looking in the completely wrong place. He says the escape hatch from this trap isn't some complex new theory. It's in an activity that we do every single second of every day. Something so normal, we don't even see it. The simple act of thinking.
So what if we stop thinking about thinking as just this ghost in the machine? What if it's something real, something tangible that we can actually observe happening? This is the key. This is what unlocks the entire puzzle.
Okay, get ready, because here is Steiner's big radical idea. Thinking isn't just a passive thing. It's not a mirror just reflecting the world. He argues it's an active, observable, and very real spiritual activity. It's something you can literally watch yourself doing. And in that moment of pure thinking, you are participating directly in the actual fabric of reality.
Think about it. Our senses, what we see, what we hear, what we touch, they only give us bits and pieces of the world, just a jumble of disconnected things. But thinking, like Steiner says here, is the very thing that destroys that illusion. It's the activity that knits all those fragments back together, plugging our individual self back into the life of the entire cosmos.
And that is the breakthrough. In the act of pure, focused thinking, that wall between you and the world, it just dissolves. You're no longer a ghost watching a machine from the outside. You are a conscious part of a single, unified reality, and you're grasping it from the inside.
Okay, so that's the big picture theory, but what does fixing a philosophical problem really have to do with being free in our day-to-day lives? How does this whole idea about thinking turn into free action? This is where Steiner's whole philosophy gets incredibly real and practical.
So Steiner lays out this kind of ladder of freedom. Down at the bottom rung, we act from pure animal instinct, hunger, thirst. That's obviously not free. You climb up a step and you find actions driven by duty or authority. We're following rules that society or religion or the law hands to us. Still not truly free because the reason is coming from outside of us. But then there's the highest rung, the only place where we find genuine freedom. That's acting from what he calls moral intuition, an ethical idea that we create ourselves, right there in the moment, through nothing but pure, clear thought.
But look, just having a great idea isn't quite enough. To make that idea a reality, we need something Steiner calls moral imagination. And this isn't about following a rule book. It's a totally creative act. It's the unique skill of taking a pure abstract idea, like be brave, and imagining a specific, concrete action that makes that idea real, right here, right now. It's the creative spark that turns an ideal into a deed.
And this is exactly why Steiner really pushes back against universal moral laws, like the famous one from Kant. For Steiner, any rule that's supposed to apply to every single person, everywhere, in any situation, well, he calls that the death of all individual impulse. A truly free act isn't about following a generic law, it's about creating a unique, personal answer to a unique, personal situation.
So what does a person who actually lives this way look like? What's the end game here? What is the goal of this whole moral journey? It's to become what Steiner calls the free individual.
And this, right here, is the absolute heart of it all. A free person doesn't do something because they have to or because some rule book tells them to. They act out of pure love for the action itself, an action that they personally have conceived and brought into the world. The motivation is 100% internal, born out of their own insight.
The difference couldn't be more clear. On one side, you've got what you could call the automaton. Now, they might be really well behaved and efficient, but at the end of the day, they're just an executor of somebody else's rules. But on the other side, you have the free individual. They are a moral creator. They don't just follow the script, they're the one writing it.
And that leads us to the final and maybe most challenging question for all of us. If a truly free action is one that you personally create, born from your own pure insight and performed out of love for the deed itself, how many of your actions just this past week were truly and authentically your own? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.